before 5, 6 of the 9, so we have a quorum. So why don't we just get started? I want to welcome everybody to the Sidewalk Safety and Connectivity meeting. Today is Tuesday, May 31st. It's a little bit after 11 o'clock. We will just do a quick roll call here of members who are present. After I call your name, just please say aye. Jay Pimpare, aye. Ralph Dormitzer.
Aye.
Frank Cicchetti.
Aye.
Tori Hanna.
Aye.
Julie Rollins.
Aye.
And Bob Mulhall. Looks like you're muted, Bob. Paul Grady, you just want to say aye. Thanks for joining.
Okay, so I got that figured out.
Gotcha. All right, thanks. All right, so we are just missing, I think we're just missing Bill Burnett and Brian Joyce. And unfortunately, Brian is the key piece to all this. And I've sent him a couple of emails this morning. Carol, I don't know if you've seen him over
I'll
at
text
town.
him. He was here, so I'll
Okay.
text him.
All right. We can do a few things, but Brian's really the key piece here. In the meantime, just following along with the agenda, are there any topics not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours that somebody wants to bring up that we will circle back to at the end? Okay. All right, the next item is we've only had 2 meetings, officially only had 2 meetings. And the meetings were April 5th and were April 25th. So those minutes are up. I've reviewed them. I haven't had any comments to them. I will make a motion to approve the comments of 4. Does anybody have any additional comments to those minutes?
No.
All right. Having heard no additional comments, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for April 5th and April 25th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Paul Grady. We will have to do a roll call vote here. Would I just call your name? Just please say aye. Jay Pimpare, aye. Frank?
Aye.
Bob Mulhall?
Aye.
Paul Grady?
Aye.
Julie Rollins?
Aye.
Tori Hanna?
Aye.
And I think that is about it. Okay. So the next item is this one-stop grant application that I wanted to talk a little bit more about. I have reached out to a few of you with some interest. So as of right now, we have one solid application that we are working on. I've been working with Ralph, thank you, and Mike Sidina to try and put some of this information together. I think we are probably about 85% of the way there, but not yet completed. It is much more intensive than I had ever thought it would be. So I really need some input, and they've both been great on that. So again, these one-stop grant applications are due, unfortunately, because we just found out about a week or plus ago, are due Friday at midnight, Friday at midnight. And so it's grant money, again, through the state of Massachusetts. It's federal money, but handed down to the state. And any particular project like the sidewalks and the roadways fully meet all of the requirements of that. And in fact, this is almost exactly what it's for. And as I mentioned last meeting, the average project is being funded with about $500,000. So when we look at our wish list, and not even the wish list, but any particular projects that come up, I feel it's worthwhile to move forward. So we have a pretty good base for Elm Street. And so that is 100% going to be thrown in there. And there are a couple of others. I know I've reached out to a few of you to see if you wanted to work on because I thought, well, why not? I thought about doing it town-wide, but then it would be $3-4 million. So let's break it up into individual projects. And the first project, again, is Elm Street. And another project that came to mind would be the King Street sidewalk. So I know I've reached out to a couple of you on that. I cannot do this alone. I've got a couple other projects going on and another application that I'm going to work on, which I'll tell you about in a minute. So if others want to work on these, let me know. I can actually, which I just learned yesterday, I can, rather than me throwing all the questions to you, I can actually add people so you can have access directly to the grant should you choose to want to work on it. And there are, again, probably 8 or 9 heavy hitter questions. A couple of those are somewhat boilerplate where you can cut and paste some language, but there are others like project description where you have 2,000 characters that you have to fit this project in on. They're a little complicated that I can't do myself. So Elm Street, King Street. The other project that came to mind was the Jerusalem Road sidewalk. So I am going to put another application in for the Jerusalem Road sidewalk. Frank brought up a great project at the last meeting, and that was, well, why don't we kind of hit the low-hanging fruit here and talk about the ADA, making all of the sidewalk ramps, etc., ADA compliant. And so I went back to the TEC report and I looked at that and I said, well, for $105,000, we can make every sidewalk where there's a ramp ADA compliant, or where there's a lack of a ramp ADA compliant. And so I don't know if I'm going to have time to put that application together. However, I would like to further discuss that as part of the paving kind of sidewalk plan for 2023 or 2024. So if that application does not go forward, or only because of the lack of time to put that together, unless somebody wants to work on it, I think for $100,000, that's again hitting the low-hanging fruit here. If we have a $1.1 million budget, that's less than 10% of the budget to say that we've checked off and made every curb, every ramp, curb, sidewalk in the town of Cohasset now ADA accessible. So, and the last one, which I talked to Bob about a little bit yesterday, was a sidewalk for North Main Street. Again, these are just grant applications where we look at our kind of wish list and say, hey, if the state wants to throw $700,000 or $800,000 at us free money and we can use it, then great. So again, that last project was a sidewalk along North Main Street. I don't have any time to work on any of these, but so this is my call to committee members. If any, I'll get to you in a second there, Paul, thanks. If any member wants to work on one of these grant applications, let me know like immediately, because we need to create the form and then it's got to be submitted by by midnight on Friday. And there's another wrinkle because you need maps, etc., of the area. And while I have, I've found some web pages here that you can take some screenshots, we really need some town help with it. So town hall is pretty much closed for the most part on Friday. So we've got, today's Wednesday, we've got today and tomorrow to lean on town hall for any help with any of these. So
Jay?
Paul Grady. Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt, but Brian will be on shortly.
All right, great. Thank you. Paul Grady, you have a comment?
Just a quick one. I'm thinking about Pleasant as well. I believe Frank mentioned it, and that's, that's a school zone. They've got one Pleasant going in there. I mean, obviously, I'd like to get Cushing done all the way down to on. The sidewalk's not in terrible shape, I don't think. But I would say Pleasant.
All right, you're breaking up a little bit there, Paul. I'm hearing that Pleasant Street. I think you're feeding off of the conversation we had last week when I think Frank mentioned the sidewalk going up Pleasant to the Milliken area.
Yeah, so to the elementary school, you see a lot of kids going up there. There is a path through to Milliken and the high school, middle school as well. But yeah, just lots of kids go up and down Pleasant Street, and it connects the whole hillside neighborhood to town. And there's a block there between Cushing and 1 Pleasant Street, basically the town, where there effectively isn't a sidewalk, though there is the rest of the way up.
Yeah. No, it's a great comment. So I think that's probably a discussion warranted for kind of the next item, or maybe the one after that, of the prioritization discussion of the sidewalks. For the grant
before we
purposes,
change topics, I'm happy to help with the accessibility, the ADA compliant ramps application. If you want to send me some information on how to get started on that.
Yeah, awesome. I will Thank you very much, Frank, and I will, I'll add you and we'll get that going. Well, I'll have are you around today?
Yep.
Or after this call and all? I don't know how long this
Yeah, I have
goes.
one meeting, I think at 2 to 3 today, but otherwise I'm free.
Okay, let's catch up after this meeting.
Okay.
Jay, it's Julie. I'm wondering if you could share, I'm sorry if you've already shared it and I missed it, but the RFP or the RFA, the request for applications or proposals, that I could read over to just get a sense of how we could pitch the King Street safety idea.
The proposal for from the state webpage, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll send that to you. I think
Okay.
I thought I sent that to you, but let me send it again.
Well, you might have. I'm sorry if I missed it. I'm just looking
That's okay.
for the original language for what they're looking for so that we can make sure that the project fits what they're looking for, or that we tweak it a bit to fit what they're looking for. One thought I have now is the King Street sidewalk project is very, very big, and I think would be more. I know you said on average 500,000, but I think it would be it would cost a lot more than that. And
Right.
my feeling is that perhaps we'd be better off putting our eggs in the baskets of the lower hanging fruits and the ones that make the most sense. Because I remember the application saying, I think, or one of your questions saying something about economic development. And I think that for this particular grant, I'm wondering if maybe the things closest to town might be the most impactful, because that's where people are spending their money, or we'd like them to spend
Yeah.
even more money, and where we'd like to get more stores and less real estate offices.
Right.
So I love this curb cutting idea and ADA compliant idea, because it's also something the state really supports. Like, how
Mhm.
could they turn down our request for ADA compliance? I mean, how can
Right.
you turn that down? You
Yeah,
can't.
I agree.
I feel
Yeah.
like that's our strongest push. I am a little concerned too about entering multiple applications and then diminishing the strength of any of them because we're putting more than one in. My view is, it may be not be a popular view, my view is to maybe focus on the best chance we have and put our eggs in that basket. And I do like the ADA compliance thing, because that seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate all those comments, and I feel the same way.
I
Having
you know how I
said
feel
that,
about King
it's like
Street. Like
I don't
Tori
want
and
to diminish any. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
we are so passionate about King Street. I'm just not, like, a day and a half, I don't feel like also maybe enough for us to get everything we need for a project of that scope.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the questions in the Google Doc of the scope of work, and that we don't even know yet, because at town meeting, we just asked for a study to be done. We weren't asking for sidewalks, but we were just asking for a study, and we
Yeah.
couldn't get that far. So I feel like a study would be what we'd be asking for here.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that,
that
I don't know.
it's
I
not
don't
a
know.
bad thing.
I'm just not ready.
Yeah.
I just feel like we might not be ready. And then my last thought, I'm so sorry to drone on, but my last thought is a lower hanging fruit would be to ask for, when we pave pond between 3A and King, instead of just paving it, we add a sidewalk where none is existing. And that way we're connecting one half of town with the other half of town for the schools and for economic development. So my bias would be to ask for that short stretch of sidewalk between 3A and King for this type of application, or potentially a different application. And now I'm going to stop talking.
Yeah, no, I mean, you raised some very valid points, and it's almost like it's like similar to Paul's discussion. It leads into the prioritization and what we wanted to do, but
Right.
I wanted to bring these grants up, and that fact that, if we don't apply, then it's like the lottery. You can't win if you don't play. However, I totally get it. We don't want to diminish some of the other, maybe stronger applications that are in front of us. So I'm just being totally transparent and throwing it out to everybody that this money, I'm saying, was available. The opportunity was available. And therefore, if somebody had a project and a passion for that project and wanted to put the time and had the time and the energy and all the background, and there's like 5 moving pieces there all together and could fill that basket, then we hit the submit button and we send away.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, for just to back up a little bit, if you would just wanted to ask for like, $50,000 or $60,000 as part of the King Street proposal and just ask for engineering to be done, because there's no guarantee that the town's going to spend the money on it. If you wanted to just ask for a study to be done, maybe that would be the ask as opposed to a $2 million sidewalk. So there are different components of that. So it's just something to think about.
Oh, that's a very good point. Well, I don't know. What do you think, Tori? I'd love to hear Paul. I think Paul wanted to say something too, but I'd love to hear what other people think.
Yeah, I agree. I think you bring up great points about doubling down and putting our efforts towards something that we think really is a no-brainer for the state to fund. And then I also agree with you on the Pond Street connection. Having that sidewalk there, I think at least gets us going in the right direction. As we always said, it wasn't just about King Street, but that connection between Pond and King and 3A is important. And then I think the only other thing would just be is finding maybe the right grant to approach for the King Street one. Just given the language here in this one does seem like it's going to be a reach anyways. So by no means am I backing off on King Street at all. And I know you aren't either, Julie. It's just more around like, let's go where we can win. And Jay, to your point, like if we don't ask, we're not going to get it. So let's go all in and ask for what we need and help alleviate some of the burden of budgets that we've been up against to try and move anything project forward in the town. So.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay. All right, Paul, did you want to say something there? I thought I saw your hand up. Your audio and visual are a little, you're muted now, Paul. Maybe if you shut your video off, you might get a better audio, Paul, but you're muted as well. Go ahead.
All right, so that, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's better.
All right, so I shut the video off. Tori and Julie grabbed the perfect idea that I was thinking about is the low hanging fruit is, it couldn't be that much from King to Pond. And again, it gets the ball rolling. These are the access to the schools. And then maybe I would agree that a study, which we're looking at to get King Street done. I mean, that can be a hard work. This can be a hard pull, but I'm kind of of the mind that, the more we get in, that they're going to look at. But I'm kind of caught now that do we want to stuff the barrel? So I'm open to that. But I do think from King, at the very least, to Pond, and going across would be something worth looking into.
Okay. Any other comments on the grant applications? I see that Brian is here. Brian, we're going to move over to the cost updates, but before we do, we definitely have sent you an email there. We need some information to finalize this Elm Street proposal, such as costs, some pre-engineering, etc. But maybe if you're available after this call, love to sit down with you and go over a couple things and firm up a couple things that I still have some questions on, so we can finalize that Elm Street grant.
Yeah, let's, actually right after this meeting works. If you want to we can just hang on here or.
Well, let's do it separately because this is officially a town meeting and et cetera. Then we don't have a quorum and all that open meeting law.
Yeah, can you do Teams? I can send you I'll send you a.
Yeah.
I'll just send you.
Yeah, all right, cool. Okay, so the next item is the cost update of the upcoming plan, et cetera. And I know that we were still waiting on TL Edwards for a few things, but there were some numbers that have come in. So Brian, if you have anything to share, that would be great. I do have the paving plan for 2023 and 2024 that I will share, but if you have something a little better, then by all means, please share it and hopefully you can give us an update on some of the numbers that have come in on some of these projects.
So I have no updates other than Beechwood Street, which is not a town budgeted thing. That the gas company is providing the funding for that. So I do not have from Lenny. I have a promise to have it shortly, but he was working on the wrap stuff.
So just to step back, when you say the gas company is funding the Beechwood, is that the entire paving project or just what are they funding exactly?
So last time we mentioned about the road protection plan. So when the gas company does any longitudinal main work on a road that's under 10 years, which was Beechwood Street, they own curb to curb. So they could either pave it themselves curb to curb or provide us a check to do it ourselves. And they've preferred that option, that second option in recent years because we get a better price. So we've given them the cost estimate for both Pond and Beechwood Street. And I've been told from them a few times that they'll be dropping off a check shortly, but I have not.
What is the cost estimate?
Stand by.
And so again, is this from King Street down to 3A?
So this is from Beechwood, Bound Brook to King Street. That would be curb to curb, does not include sidewalk. We can't peg that.
Bound Brook to where, I'm sorry?
Bound Brook to King Street intersection.
So that's pretty much the area now that is totally torn up.
Correct.
Okay, do you know the number that you have forecasted for that?
Yes, let me. So that section of Beechwood is 177,328. And then we're putting $6,000 in there for incidentals, police striping, testing. And then Pond Street, the section again that was torn up is 130,248. And that's from Route 3A to just past the high school, or just at the high school, I guess, alumni field entrance, that area.
Okay.
And so that's a total of 313,576. So that we've sent them a letter. I'll send you the letter, a copy of the letter if you want it.
Thank you.
But they should be giving us a check for that amount. And, so that gets put into, an account that we can use. It's a gift account. It doesn't matter. It's the accounting part of it. But we could choose to use that. I think I mentioned last time, that's for a curb to curb on Pond Street. Again, Pond Street's fairly new, and the opposite side from where they did the trench work is in good shape. Maybe we just want to do half a road there and use the money elsewhere. It's an option. Beechwood definitely needs to be done curb to curb for the limits of all the work.
Well, yeah, and if we're talking about that, which Pond Street I don't think you could address the sidewalks at all because there is a grass buffer there and the sidewalk is on the other side. But for the King Street area, I think we definitely need to take a further look at some sidewalk there as well, where there is an existing sidewalk that's actually off of the, almost part of the roadway, where you don't have that fine buffer in areas. So just something to consider, and as we move along, and because as we talked about before anyway, this King Street project does not appear that it's going to happen this fall anyway. Is that still hold true?
When you say King Street, what do you mean?
I mean the Beechwood, I'm sorry.
Oh, Beechwood. Yeah, we're likely, we could do it in the late fall. I guess it depends on what our other roads.
So what happens? So I know we talked about, you wanted to settle, et cetera, and everything else. What would happen? Is there a temporary fix for that road, or does the road kind of, what's the short term and long term of Beechwood?
So Beechwood, the trenches there'll be a temporary trench patch on that during the settlement period. It's going to be, it's not a great driving surface. There was a similar patch done this past winter on Route 3A that, I'm sure a lot of everyone's driven over, and, there were a lot of complaints of it, but that's a typical utility trench installation. You have a temporary patch for a settlement period. It's not great. And then you come in and do a permanent patch, and they just finished the permanent patch or permanent paving on 3A. So once the contractor's done, the main line work should be done in the next couple of weeks. They'll come in and install, the trench patch, which will bring it up to grade, and it'll be a little bit variable as far as elevation, not perfect, but that'll be likely there till late fall or next spring.
Yeah. Isn't there a part of the road that's kind of just, is it all dirt, or is it dirt and rock over the pavement? Because it seemed like it's pretty dusty over there. Am I imagining that, or is it all fully paved now?
No, it's not fully paved. So they're working from King Street towards Bound Brook Dam, replacing the water main. So they installed a temporary bypass on the side of the road that you can see. And then they pre-excavate the where they're laying the main in the same trench as the existing main, which is from 1896. And they're, so where they're advancing that trench, they leave it exposed, kind of gravelly, and where they've replaced the main, it's temporary patched, left down probably an inch to an inch and a quarter, so that when they come in and do the full top coat, there will be no joints. It'll just be a continuous top coat for the entirety of the trench.
So fast forward, let's say they finish the project in 2-3 weeks, whatever it is, at any time after the 4th of July, they would be able to put that temporary patch down. But is the temporary patch just in the trench, or is it like curb to curb? Would there be a temporary
trench? Yeah, so you'll see the trench, and you'll see all the service laterals where they had to do the service connections.
So will it still be a dusty, gravelly dirt road?
No, it'll be like North Main Street. There's no dust or gravel. It's just
all right.
Trench patch.
All right, gotcha. I'll take a closer look. Last time I drove down, it would seem like there was a lot of gravel in the road. So
yeah, I mean today there's gravel and dust. So they in advance of where they're trenching, they remove the asphalt and they bring it to grade with gravel. So
gotcha.
That's there until they finish the mainline work.
Okay. All right. So, all right, we have those two. Do you have any cost estimates for Elm Street and or any of the projects that are forecasted for 2023 and 2024? And I'm gonna share my screen here, unless you have something that you want to share.
No, I don't. I'm just sending you the grid.
Right. Can you see my screen now? Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So I took the liberty here just to kill a couple minutes and looking at the plan here. Don't pay any attention to the light blue. That was already there. I couldn't figure that out, get that off there. But in just looking at the 2023, 2024 plan, and even almost 2025, what I did is took the liberty to highlight the green areas that, Brian, I want to go through each one of these to specify that these are projects that are ready to go and will be hopefully paved this summer. And so Smith Place, the entire length can we confirm that?
Yes,
Okay. And the next one I have in green is Cushing Road from Smith to Pleasant.
that's part with Smith.
Okay. And again, this is just me from what I was going on notes. Atlantic from House 31 to Howard Gleason.
Yeah, that's continuous with margin.
Okay. All right. So margin, right. Atlantic to Elm Street. Okay. So that's what so the other three projects, I associated Mill Lane with Beechwood because it's off of Beechwood.
Yep.
And from our discussion, I put that in yellow as only a pause. In that from our discussion, it appeared that might be a project that was more likely to be completed in spring or a 2024 project. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, the goal at the beginning of this season, which was delayed, was to have it done in the fall. And that's not out of the realm of possibility, but you know, if we want to push it, we can push it to spring.
Okay. And then the other one that it was at least on the 2023, and again was just based on the last discussion, was Elm Street. That with a lot of the moving parts, I think everyone was fairly pretty supportive of that would be another project that was in reality would probably be an early 2024 project. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So do we have any final numbers on any of these? I know we're waiting on the quotes to come in from the contractor. Do we have any numbers on any of these?
Just the Beechwood Street that, so I just sent you that letter, but that the limits on Beechwood Street, King to 3A. Doesn't appear to be accurate.
456?
No, just the from to columns.
I'm sorry, what?
The limits of work will be from Bound Brook Lane, or from Mill Lane to Kendall Village, kind of the Shaw's parking lot entrance.
Okay. But so we don't have any of the numbers for 2023 here to address these other projects, but hoping they'd come in under what we are here.
I'm confident, you know, I would take a bet that they're going to be significantly under. These are Mass Dot prices, which have been historically significantly higher than what we get for bidding prices.
Okay. All right. I'll circle back to a couple things. The other green moving forward into 2024, and I know it's not it's only captures a little like half of this, but we were grabbing Church Street. Let me jump down here. Church Street from the town line down to Beach Street, but it covered half of Church and half of Doan. So that wasn't broken up here, but that's fine because we didn't know that. But as you mentioned, that was the grant that you were using the money for in order to get done in the next month. So although I have this in green, it doesn't entirely cover Doan in Church as described, but I couldn't play around with that because it was a PDF file. So at least we're hitting a couple items there, correct?
Yeah, so the one you have highlighted green is the section of Doan from Beechwood Street to Church Street. That is in its entirety being
right, the 83,000. Yep.
Yeah. And then but yeah, Church Street is just a short section from the the town line to Doan.
Right. So we've got a piece of that. So we're checking that box as well. All right. So my question, and I only highlighted this in purple because we talked about this last time, and I get a lot of comments, and even more comments after the social media post that was done last week that everybody in town wants their road paved. But there was some discussion about South Main Street. So I know that's another entrance to town. And Brian, you had mentioned that maybe we kind of start to think about that. So I just highlighted that in purple because there's only like 4 colors you can pick from. And the fact that maybe that would be something to consider this year. Now, so let me just jump back and say,
Yeah, so
what?
just on the South Main Street, that's been like similar to Elm Street. That's been on our list to pave each year for probably like 3 years. But
Yeah.
the decision on that one is it's been tied to, you know, regional sewer discussion and decision, which is if there is regional sewer and the town decides to sewer South Main Street and potentially partner with Situate on sewering, then, you know, that whole area will get a sewer main down the street. So that's, you know, that decision is with the towns, it's with the select boards of each town. And sorry, Paul has a question. Go ahead, Paul.
For you, Brian, again, I'm not speaking for the select board, but if, for instance, we didn't sewer, how soon could we get that done, and could we factor in the sidewalks? I mean, I walk those sidewalks every night, and you know, I know that you have a bunch of stuff in front of you, the trees, the roots, the whole 9 yards. I do understand that. Would we be able to, how soon could we do it? And would we be able to factor in just repairing the sidewalks?
So do the sidewalks independent of the roadway?
No, I'm saying, again, I'm not speaking to the board because obviously it's going to go to a vote. If, for instance, sewer did not go through, I'm just being hypothetical. How soon could we get Main Street done? And at the same time, what you're trying to, I know we're trying to do this on this board, is repair the sidewalks as we go.
So again, using the estimate of, you know, 500 grand per mile of roadway and $1 million a mile per sidewalk, I don't think that would be $1 million a mile because there's not a lot of curbing out there. I think it's predominantly, if not all, you know, a grass strip with some vegetation. So, but conservatively, you know, $1 million a mile for sidewalk and 500 for roadway. We could, if we got the estimate, we could pave it this season. It's just a matter of, you know, priority. And if there was a decision to do sewer in the near term, we would just be ripping up the entire, you know, the entire roadway to do that.
No, that's what I was asking. That's what I was asking. If, for instance, sewer didn't go through, again, that's all. And again, I'll emphasize I wasn't speaking for the board, but it just helps us as far as what we want to putting up. That's all.
Yeah. So the gas is fairly new out there. I believe, you know, we did an audit of all the water mains. I think the majority of South Main Street is good. There is a section from the 1800s from Red Lion to the church rectory that needs to be replaced. So barring that section of water main and the sewering, which would go from the church all the way to the Situate line, those are the kind of the two outstanding decisions.
Okay. So I guess it now comes down to kind of a dollars and cents, and we almost went from, I'm going to share my screen again here. We almost went from not having any money to do anything, or at least, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but the budget we have right now, or in the balance, is about 1.1 million. I think those were the numbers you had sent me over.
Yeah, that's approximately the balance.
Okay, so the town has in its fund about $1.1 million. We went from a proposed budget of 2 million, a little over 2 million now. If in fact some of these heavy hitter projects are moved forward to 2024, I added up the green in 2023 here, these 4 projects, Smith, Cushing, Atlantic, and Margin. And on these numbers, I come up with about 922,000, and hopefully it's even less than that. So it looks to me like there actually is going to be a shortfall of projects. Given that, this is leading off of the discussion that was held or the talks and comments earlier about trying to move up some of these, and what is the reality of moving them up and putting them on the fast track. So so that's where we are, or that's where I kind of see it. Now, Brian, if there's a shortfall, obviously we want to spend the money, or do we lose that? Or does that money, if we were to have $100,000 left over, that money carry over to 2024 fiscal year?
Yes, 100%. So
Okay.
and something that's not factored in there. So we're continuing with maintenance, 50,000 to 100,000 of crack sealing. And, other, I'll call them small ticket, but anything from $5,000 to $10,000. We do cash basis repairs and things like that. Those items come out of the road fund as well. I think I mentioned before. So anything pertinent to road, that's part of the structure of the road that makes it work comes out of the road fund. And there's, those smaller projects that still add up to a few grand here and there, and cumulatively could be significant. So those aren't captured in that spreadsheet, that we have.
Okay.
Ralph has sorry.
Go ahead, Ralph. Yeah, sorry.
What I would suggest, we've got a couple of things in yellow, one of which is Elm Street. And as you know, I'm quite concerned about using up all the available cash because Elm Street therefore would not have sufficient amount of money. It looks as though Elm Street is probably about $600,000 in that range, but I'm not sure what it will come in at, but probably in that range. And if we're going to do Margin and we're going to do a portion of Atlantic, it is much more efficient to do the entire stretch at one time than to try to actually do Elm sometime later. But the broader issue for me is that Elm probably is, because it's 600,000 or so thereabouts, it's unlikely to be available even to be paid for in 2024 if in fact we use up all of the available money, the 1.1 million we have. It means Elm Street is indefinitely postponed and we're depending entirely on a $600,000 grant. I think that's not a good idea because Elm Street is clearly one of the most torn up streets we've got and really one of the most traveled. So I am strongly in favor of not necessarily using any money that we would hold aside for Elm to try to pick up some other streets which are of less importance. So that's the broader point for me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Ralph, and I totally understand. I think that, so this is where the Sidewalk Committee comes in. And if we go back and look at the charge, in that, in order to, what all we are is that we're an advisory committee. And we're an advisory committee to the select board. So comments that you just made there are great. What we would do with those comments is we would make that recommendation to the select board. Let's assume that for whatever reason that the project, is just not shovel ready come the fall, given and we can't pave year round here in Cohasset in the Northeast. So that's another downfall that for whatever reason can't be done by October 1st. I would recommend that the committee further discuss this and vote on it so that we are, and hopefully it's in the majority, that this project is pretty much earmarked for 2024. So there's an earmark for this particular project. Hopefully we have numbers on it. And even though whatever it is, it's 600 out of the $1 million budget, it is what it is. But we make a recommendation to earmark this project for 2024. If we have to go down that road, would be my recommendation. And that's what the select board wants to hear. Paul, any comments on that, or?
I would agree with that because, once I'm looking to get this committee, including Brian, up in front of the select board, got a placeholder for it. So anyway, I would agree with you 100%, Jay. I think the more we get done and we do earmark and we come in with the two different estimates as just to me is paving it as a highway that it is now, or getting it to be the way it should be. And this is my personal view. And getting Mr. Sardina's and Ralph's plan up in front of the board. And then we earmark it for 24 as a guarantee. If that's what we spend next year, that's what we spend. But it is a definite roadway. And I also agree with Ralph in a sense is doing it all at once. I don't know. I know the conditions of the roads, but when we do it, we want to do it right. But I think it's a definite earmark for next year.
Yeah. So, and again, that's kind of leading to where this committee is going. We've only had 2 meetings. We're starting to get into the dollars and cents here and starting to get into prioritizing. And what I've talked to the chair of the select board, and we'd like to get in front of the select board in a public forum, maybe shooting for a late June, maybe early July, but maybe we'll have a decision by June with this, how the sidewalk committee is progressing. And then what I would like to do is be able to say, these are the projects that have been in the queue and will be done in 2023. And these are projects that potentially could happen in 2023. And if it can't happen in 2023, we want to earmark them for 2024. These are the recommendations from the sidewalk committee. And we're starting to have those initial discussions, but by no means, I don't think we're ready to vote on it. But I'm happy I'm opening that up to the rest of the group. But that's how I see this playing out. We need to make those strong recommendations. We are an advisory committee to the select board, and let's do that. Go ahead, Ralph.
Yeah,
You're still muted.
okay. Unmute. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. One of the things that we had talked about is criteria, and I do think that at this point, for the purposes of sidewalks explicitly, I think it is important to take and do this radius around the schools. I do think one of the most important things we can actually present to the select board would be which of the sidewalks within the 1 mile radius of each of the schools would you recommend to the select board? And I think, and there may be some other radii you want to create, maybe radii from maybe the sailing clubs or some other such thing. But anyway, fundamentally, I think the criteria are critical now for understanding what we're going to recommend, not necessarily just roads, but what sidewalks ought to really be considered. And that means you've got to actually I think we need to sit down with a good map of what we're talking about and understand what sidewalks could we recommend that would enhance the ability of students to actually make it to school within that 1 mile radius. And there may be others you want to talk about, but I do think having those criteria now is essential. And I think it is radii. And I think we have to get back to that as a basis of how we make decisions on sidewalks.
So I agree with you, Ralph, and I want to point to, get to you in a second here, Paul. I want to point to the sidewalk and pedestrian curve inventory report that was done by TEC Engineering, which pretty much, again, when I say from the beginning, a lot of this work's already been done for us. And so, this is pretty much hot off the press. This is November 2022, and it has a full, complete inventory of the 13 miles of roadway segment, the X amount of miles of the sidewalk, and it talks about the existing condition, labeling it 54321, and has nice, pretty pictures here, or no sidewalk. And then we go into the ADA stuff here, which is great. And it talks about the summary of findings, and it actually has, dollar figures associated with that. And it talks about some of the segments of where Margin Street, Elm Street, etc., how many feet of sidewalk, and I think hits a lot of those points, which are great points. So, and it even gives some cost figures here. So a lot of that's pretty much already done. And again, we go into the different areas and the roadways and the cost, etc. So I would encourage everybody to go back and look at that, and you know, but happy to talk to that more. And I'll stop there. Frank, and I'll get to you in a second, Paul. Frank, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was looking at that report when we first got it a while back, and I know it says it's a complete listing, but there are a lot of sidewalks that are omitted on there. I mean, if it ranges from a perfect sidewalk to no sidewalk, then every street should have a listing on there, you know, or at least highlighted on the map. I mean, I know that the street I live on has what passes for a sidewalk here, and it's not listed on there. So I don't know, Brian, if you know what the scope was for it, of why some sidewalks were not included in it, or if it is supposed to be a complete listing, and if a street is not listed, then it is a 0 or a 5, whichever one is no sidewalk.
I'll have to go back to the email chain, but I think it was public roadways only, and those that were either major or minor rehabilitation. Okay,
so if it was somewhere in the middle, it might not be included here.
So yeah, well, what's your road?
Pleasant Street.
Yeah, that's certainly public.
Yeah.
Okay.
May not
And
be.
I think that's the one that King Street also was never on either.
So King Street is on. Yeah, I remember reading that.
Yeah,
there's a blurb about King Street on there when it talks about areas that are not it actually prioritizes King Street there on the report. I'll have to pull that portion up. It does. You're right. It does. There's obviously.
I thought that was the lower King Street. When we did the analysis and broke it down, then everyone corrected us that it was lower King Street, and apparently there's upper and lower King Street, which I didn't know about.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me go back and dive. I'm looking at it now, and it talks about King Street. TC recommends the construction of sidewalks on both sides of King Street between 3A and house number 300 and the south side of Pond Street.
Yeah, so that's the section I think we were talking about before, and I think it's in the graphic. You know, the one thing, if you look at that sidewalk report, is the GIS graphic, and it's got kind of all lines.
Yeah.
With a legend that kind of shows you what was assessed and what wasn't.
Okay.
In a picture.
All right, Bob.
Hey guys. Yeah, sorry. So I think Ralph, you made this point a minute or two ago, but coming up with this, you know, areas of town that need sidewalks and the radii from the key points, and I think doing something like that and overlaying that with the TEC report would be a really good starting point for what I thought the committee was going to be doing. And then, you know, from there you kind of get like a blue sky prioritization, and then you get down to the dollars and cents and see what can get funded and what can't. So I think if there's any sort of Excel version of that TEC report, I think that could be interesting for us to manipulate before the next meeting and come up with our own prioritization on that, or whenever, if we're still working through the grant, whatever, maybe a few meetings from now we can do like a sidewalk project prioritization. But yeah, that's what I envisioned.
Yeah, no, and so Brian, I think we may have asked in the past, is there an Excel spreadsheet or an Excel version of those PDF files in the TEC report? Can we reach out to them and see if they could share that? You're muted, Brian.
Yeah, I'm copying you on an email to Frank Conroy. He's our contact at TEC. We don't have the Excel files on the sidewalk. We have the ones on the road report. At any rate, you'll be part of the loop, and I'll just ask him to respond to both of us.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. So no, I'm hearing kind of, you know, it's I appreciate all these comments, because as chair, I'm just kind of facilitating this discussion and moving it forward. getting in front of the select board in another month or so with these specific priorities of this is a number one priority from the sidewalk committee, and these are the reasons why, is exactly why this committee was created. And that's what we need to slowly kind of zero in on, of these number one priorities. And I go back to the paving plan. Looks like we've got a good list here. And in any event, hopefully there is a shortfall of money that can be carried over. And again, having strong recommendations, or not strong, but our solid recommendation. And I don't see the select board saying that's great, sidewalk committee, you want this project, but it's not happening. I can't speak for them, but this is why the committee was created. And when we do that in the public forum, I don't see how, if the money was available and these were projects that need to get done or should be done, I can't see the select board saying, no, it's not going to happen. That's just my personal opinion. But I have 20% of the vote here on the call. So, Paul, is that your it seems like that's the course of action here. Not talking about any particular projects, but that's.
No, I'm going to say that. Am I?
No, you're good.
Oh, good. That's why the committee was formed. You know, it was, again, we've gone a long time without really one, and this time, you know, taking in mind, that's why we went to all four corners of Cohasset, from Beechwood to the harbor and across to Jerusalem. It's just, I'm confident that things will be looked on favorably. And what we got to do is get those numbers on Elm and the other numbers. Right now, if Elm is FY24, for instance, I hope we can get the numbers in and, you know, present them to the board. And this is what we're looking at. So it's a priority, but on this committee's end, we've got to prioritize it, if you see what I'm saying. And I'm leaning towards Ralph on that, because he's done a yeoman's job in putting it together. So no, I'm very comfortable with not speaking for the board, but speaking on my own behalf. Or we're not going to waste our time and spin our wheels on this committee.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to. All right. Having said all that, again, you know, this goes back to kind of a dollars and cents thing here, Brian. What, when do we anticipate? I mean, these projects aren't going to start without a cost estimate, are they? Is TL Edwards ready to go on some of these tomorrow, or what's the town's approach to saying, hey, I need solid numbers before you go give me a bill of X amount of dollars and I didn't budget that?
Oh, yeah, we don't start anything without the budgets, but so there's a June 30th deadline on the wrap for all the communities. And I know I've mentioned it a bunch of times, but that's where their focus is now. They're coming in to do our section of Church and Doan next week. So right now the dates.
So let me stop you there. They're coming into, they're going to pave next week?
Yeah, mill and overlay.
Okay.
They'll do the milling, and then they'll need to set structures, which is usually a couple of days, and they'll come in and do the paving.
So that has been confirmed for next week?
It will start next week, and I just looked at the 10-day. It looks like we have some weather, so obviously not paving when it's raining, but the milling will happen. So there'll be activity out there, starting with the milling, and then covers, and then the paving.
All right.
And the paving crew is subject to weather.
Okay.
So,
all right.
you know,
Well, that's great to know. We'll circle back to that. I want to see if the town can, you know, publicize that a little bit. Not me personally, this time around.
yeah. So it's going to be on the 5 things. The town manager puts out 5 things every Friday. I don't know what exact media, but it's going to be included with that.
Okay. And so the other, we're
Can
still
I
waiting.
interrupt for 1 second?
Go
ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Just speaking to what both you and Brian are saying, I just want to, that I have reached out to Justin, and there was an interesting suggestion on one of the pages, someone about setting up a web page and getting it up and running. So under the town, under this committee. So that's in the works right now. I just want to let everybody know that.
So Justin did maybe after you talked to him, he did approach me asking me about this and the Beechwood water main. So he was looking to get that in the update for this week because it's next week.
Okay,
But to your point, I mean, so we got those estimates. We agreed to them. We said go, and that'll be the same on the rest of the projects. But daily contact with him. He's the one estimator for Edwards. So he's promised us to be a priority, but we're one of 11.
all right. Well, obviously, the sooner we get these cost estimates in, the better off we're going to be as far as moving forward. All right.
Jay, I'm sorry, I've got one more question. Are we gonna
Yep.
get two, and Brian, maybe, two estimates on Elm? Pre-planned paving as is, and could we get it on Mrs. Sardina's plan?
So we've asked him for the estimate on the revised plan.
Good.
I have an estimate that's a few years old. I'll see if he can just update those numbers. He doesn't like to do estimates, and again, we're the client, but he doesn't like to go through a lot of effort for something that's not going to happen.
No, Brian, I'm sorry, and please don't have him do that. I know what I'm in favor of, so,
But
and I will say this, it's not paving a freeway, but.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
if
I think all the quantities, I'll just send him that one from, it's got to be at least 5 years old. He did it exactly in its current configuration for the same limits we're talking about. And I think he could probably, instead of all the quantities are there, he can just assign the new bid price. So I'll ask.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, don't go crazy on it. And then we look into, so if we present before the board, if we're Ralph, and you had mentioned this, if you're still hearing, trees, some maybe public participation in really beautifying Elm. Those are just the things I'm interested in right now, me personally. But you mentioned getting some tree donations. Perhaps we could put a plaque for every person who donated a tree, for Pete's sakes, or something like that. Make it more of a kind of a town-wide effort.
It sounds like, I'll get to you, Ralph and Brian, in a second here. It sounds like, and again, I'm personally supportive of it, that Ralph, maybe we could try and get Mike on at our next meeting to give us a little update of the plan and show the plan. And then I would recommend that the committee take a vote on the plan and what it looks like, so that if in fact we take the next step and strongly or tell the select board we want this project to happen, that I'm not speaking for everyone on the committee, and that we have a majority or hopefully unanimous vote from the committee that this is the plan that we have stamped, and we're strongly supportive of that. So as we're talking about Elm Street, I think let's try and get Mike on for the next call and have a little bit more of discussion, because I know some other members maybe not have seen the recent plan and what we're all talking about here with Elm Street. So Ralph, I see your hand up.
I just want to say I welcome that idea. I do think it's important for people, this committee, to understand what is being proposed. I think you might be pleased, but I think it's worthwhile to have your endorsement, if you would.
Yeah.
It's the product of a fair amount of work and a lot of detail. So it is very well executed at this point, including a PDF file and a CAD file. So there's quite a bit there. So
Yeah.
thanks for bringing it up. I think it's important for everyone to actually know it and see that they like it. Sure.
All right. So let's get Mike on the next agenda. Brian, I see a hand up there. Go ahead. You're muted, Brian. Sorry.
Sorry about that. So unrelated, but related, I just want to make a pitch for, our roadway protection plan, our 10-year protection plan, and kind of the 10 years ago, there was the road protection plan was 1 year after paving. And since we've created a new one, we kind of modeled after Boston, and some other communities took what we thought was the best. So that 10-year protection plan includes a strict 5-year moratorium and then fees from years 6 to 10. There's been a lot of requests, and I'm sure, and I know there'll probably be one before the selectmen for people to get money refunded back for those fees for various reasons. But I think it's important to have the line in the sand to protect our capital investment and to not make exceptions, because it opens up the door for everybody else to come in and rip up the roads. And that's an unrelated pitch, mainly for Paul, and maybe support by the group, just to mention in your report.
Okay.
I fully understand that, Brian.
So I think having these numbers is really pivotal, just moving forward. The other thing I had on the agenda here was basically a privatization discussion of the roadways and sidewalks. I think we kind of hit a little bit upon that. And the fact that, again, it really would be good if we had the numbers, but looking at some projects that really just absolutely need to be done or should be done. And then we've got the whole second tier of the pipe dream projects that we all would like to have, but let's hit the low hanging fruit here. And let's hone in on the projects that we have a little bit more grasp on, and then go from there. So I'll open it up for any comments on anything that we've kind of talked about now. It's 12:11. Anybody have anything to add to any of this?
I just sent another text to Lenny, just to FYI, so he's
Okay.
on Fave 5.
Okay, great. So let's, Ralph, go ahead. I see your hand up.
Just a quick one. I think the question really is on the major grant application we've got underway. How much more help do you really need now, Jay, on the one that we've been working on? I mean, where are we on that grant application, given the fact that really by noon on Friday, we pretty well have to be done on that? Are we in good shape on that now, or where are we?
Yeah, so I actually invited you. Did you get the invite to join where you can actually see the grant itself? I sent you that yesterday.
I looked, I know I got the announcement that I could see it, but I didn't know that I got it. I got the actual link. I'm not sure I did.
Oh, all right. Well, so I haven't seen that, but if you want, I can, set up a separate meeting here, just you and I, and not violating open meeting law. And I can share that grant application and go through and show you where there are still some things outstanding. But in the meantime, after this meeting, try and click on that link. You should have direct access to the grant.
Okay.
And you'll see where, like I had put in there, ask Brian or need help from so-and-so on this one. It's like I say, 85% of the way there, but try and use that link that I don't know, it's like ICX or something sent to you to look at that. But you should have access to the grant application itself now.
Okay, great. That's the important thing. The other thing is, do you need us to do editing, or are we just looking at it? Where are we on that whole thing at this stage?
Again, take a look at it. Take a look at the grant and see it with all the narrative language, and see if you feel that it needs a little bit more editing. We do need to include the maps. I don't have the map, the recent map that Mike put together, the PDF, unless we're talking about the one he had sent me like a month and a half ago. So
why don't I make sure you get that? Okay, so you'll get the PDF, because I know I've got the most recent one.
And if you want to upload it, you can upload it as well. You have full access to the application.
I think I'd like to have you be the central point on it. I think, Jay, in this case, not myself.
Oh yeah.
No, there's no question we don't want two of us doing. I don't want to do anything online that is not yours. Okay. So the other thing, I could offer the services of my wife if she's willing to do it, to do the editing, because often she'll come up with all kinds of important things that make it much more credible. But I don't know if you want that. So.
Yeah. Okay.
I can sometimes offer the services of my wife. I'm not sure I can offer them on this one. But anyway, she does a spectacular job if you want to make sure it's flawless. So.
All right. All right. Any other questions here? Anything outstanding? what do people's schedules look like if we're going to set another meeting here? I don't know that we'll need to meet next week, maybe push this out a couple weeks. Let me look at my my day job calendar here, where I actually get paid, and see what that calendar looks like. This seems to be a decent time frame. Tuesday, I think we had initially thought was a better day. Let me see here. So 2 weeks from would be, I'm actually not here. I'm out of the country the week of the 12th. So how about next Thursday, the 8th? Does that work for everybody?
Same time?
Yeah, well, my question is, Brian, you think we'll have numbers in by then? You know what? Let's have a meeting regardless of the numbers, because I really want to get into I want to get Mike on from Elm Street, and I want this committee to, the intent is to have a formal vote at the end of listening to the proposal that we're actually all on the same page with Elm Street. So how does Thursday, June 8th at, I don't know, 11:30 work? Or 12 o'clock, whatever's best with everybody.
I'm good at 11. I'm usually in court on Thursday morning, so I'm out of there by then, so I can do the same thing if anyone's around 11.
Hey, Jay, what about Wednesdays? I'm wondering, would Wednesday work better for the group? Thursday's tough for me. But I can move some things around if I have to, but Thursdays are really busy.
I would be doing this remotely. Well, I'm doing it remotely now. I'd be doing this in my car, so I wouldn't have any access to really any screen, but I could do it, but I'm at a disadvantage.
Oh, on Wednesdays? Okay.
I mean, I could do it Tuesday, and but I mean, that's pretty quick, but what about anybody else? Tuesday, Thursday?
Thursday works for me.
Thursday works for me.
I can make
Can
it.
we do both?
I can be there
We
for
do it at
part of the
11.
time on Thursday.
And again, it doesn't have to be at 11. I just kind of thought we'd go into your lunchtime hour and you selfishly give up your lunch and not any other part of your day. But if there's an earlier start time or later start time, that works too. We can do it at any time. All right. It sounds like we'll probably, Brian, you're the key piece here. Is 11 on Thursday work for you?
Yeah, 11 works well. I went off camera there because I was talking to Lenny. He said he's trying to get these numbers to us next week, so hopefully by Thursday.
Okay.
Good.
All right, let's shoot for Thursday, June 8th at 11 o'clock for the next meeting. Carol, if you could send out the Zoom and get that on the town calendar, that would be great. And I'll send you over a rough agenda so that we can get that posted and get that on the books.
Sounds great.
And again, the intent of this meeting, one of the goals is we will get, hopefully that works for Mike, Ralph. We can get Mike on. He can be obviously remote and do some screen sharing, etc. The focus would be Elm Street, but also coming up with some other projects. Again, not to say that they're going to get funded, but we have to have recommendations that if there were other monies available, that these would be our priorities moving forward.
Are you
And
okay, Jay, are you okay with the idea of just getting this radius from the schools and really taking a look at the sidewalks that we could actually, I really am very anxious that we get a sidewalk plan in this thing. I think that's critical for us. If somehow we could come up with a plan of that, it would be very helpful for everyone to know what in fact we're recommending to the select board with regard to sidewalks. So.
Yeah. And absolutely. So there's existing sidewalks and then there's no sidewalks and within a mile, I don't know exactly what they are, but again, I would encourage you to go back and look at the TEC report, which basically outlines all of that in addition, and just driving the area, just driving the town. Like, if you go to the school for whatever reason, and after school activity and you leave there and you're like, oh, the sidewalk's great, sucks, like let's outline that. Brian,
What I'm suggesting is combining, quite frankly, combining that report with the, a radius with
yeah,
a compass on a map and saying, okay, what do they say about those sidewalks and what would we recommend as a result of that? So that's
Right.
kind of how I look at it. So.
okay. All right,
I just
All
wanted
right.
to mention, for the purposes, when we hired TEC, we asked them to be conservative on the budget. So that's the estimates that they have are conservative. And for the purposes, I think, of grant submittal, and I know we'll talk after this, I just in a meeting, for the purposes of grant submittal, those are good numbers to use for budgeting purposes. And if there are sections like near Frank's house where there's not a piece of sidewalk, I think you can extrapolate from that report other areas that have a similar scenario, and then kind of use that number per linear foot to budget for anything that might be missing. So I just want to put that out there. I would say all the information is in that report, and you can kind of massage it how you need to.
good.
Jay, you said you
All
wanted Mike on the next meeting.
I'm sorry, what's that, Julie?
It's Carol. You said that you wanted Mike on the next meeting.
Yes,
What's his last name?
Sadina.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm.
Yep.
Thank you.
Julie, were you saying something? Oh, sorry.
No, I wasn't.
Okay. All right, Brian, I need a couple minutes to make a quick phone call or two here. Are you good at, say, 12:45 or 1 o'clock? Whatever works for you, just send me a quick link and we'll regroup if that's okay with you.
All right, I just sent you one. I'll make it for 1 o'clock.
All right, cool. Give it a little time to do a couple things here.
Very good.
All right, any last minute stuff here?
No, but I got a meeting I got to run to right now. So.
All right,
We
motion
timed it right.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Grady. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All
All right.
right, see you on the 8th for those that can make it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.